Generative AI is the new race, declared the Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella as the tech giant announced a $10 billion investment in OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT, which since its launch in November last has set a record for garnering the fastest growing user base. With over 100 million users now using generative AI platforms like ChatGPT every day, it's clear the potential of this technology is immense. Fun experiments have led to excited execution, with over 100 products being built using the ChatGPT interface in just the first week of March. And there is more to come, as Google, Meta, and pretty much every other enterprise rushes to keep pace with the revolution, which is set to change how businesses and common users like you and I can generate creative solutions to problems, from marketers crafting personalized campaigns to target every single customer, and bankers using generative AI to bank the unbanked, to influencers easily dubbing their content in several languages, and manufacturers overcoming design dead ends and cutting costs with better predictions. The new industrial churn looks like it is here. When we look at India, it is still an enthusiast market with impediments, many in the way to become an AI mature economy. As NASSCOM puts it, while the potential of generative AI, as we can all sense, is huge, it raises an urgent question for CEOs and CTOs in India. How can India Inc. approach generative AI and make it an effective part of corporate strategy with the necessary guardrails in place? As we also look at the possibility of job roles changing and skill sets being demanded as we move forward. Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us on this special edition of Eye on India. I'm Shireen Bhan. Joining me on Eye on India, Mohit Kapoor, Group CTO at Mahindra, Milind Nagnur, CTO of Kotak Mahindra Bank. Also with us, Rohini Srivathsa, CTO at Microsoft India, and Mahesh, Makhija, Tech Consulting Leader at EY India. Rohini, gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on the program. Mahesh, let me start by talking to you about exactly this. I mean, how real is this move towards generative AI? I know everyone is pegging it as the next big disruption, as the next engine for growth as far as technology is concerned, but we have heard that previously about other disruptions as well. So when we talk about the adoption, and specifically in the context of India, what do you hear from CEOs and companies that you speak to?
So I think, Shireen, there's a huge amount of excitement, and the boardroom is really exploded with interest in AI, not just generative AI, but AI in general. So every CEO is demanding of his or her team to come back, in terms of what are the use cases which can be implemented with this new technology. So if you're a SaaS company, you're trying to look at something like an in-app assistant, and that's going to become the way we deal, with apps. There's going to be in-app assistants which learn, and then those will generate, the kinds of signals which we will then start to, use in our use of those, technologies. If you're an enterprise company, and I'm sure, Milind and Mohit will talk about this, whole functions will get transformed. Customer service, case in point, for example, classic case for, generative AI. So there's a lot of POCs we are seeing in our client base, starting off to look at those kinds of functions. And then the tech world, right? That's one of the classic use cases, which is GitHub Copilot. We've seen a massive improvement in productivity when developers start to get these tools, right? Almost like a 30 to 40% improvement in productivity. There's statistics which say that if you look at the big tech companies like Google, etc., almost 6 to 8% of their code base is now actually generated code. So really good value potential. Obviously there are, the other part of it, which is things like hallucination, bias, copyright. All of that has to be, looked at. But I really think we're seeing the evolution of a new platform, and this platform is an API-driven platform. It used to be the big tech companies who had large access to data. They were the only ones who could use AI. But right now it's accessible to, the masses of companies through this API kind of basis, where it becomes like a platform on which you see startups and big tech beginning to innovate. So I'm pretty optimistic. Of course, like you said, the guardrails have to be put in place as well.
Yeah. Well, yes, the guardrails have to be put in place, as is the case with any technology and any innovation. But as you pointed out, there is plenty of excitement at this point. But Rohini, let me address that issue with you. As we just heard there from Mahesh, just about every CEO is talking about this. In my conversation with Satya Nadella, he truly believes that this is going to be the next growth engine as far as technology is concerned. Take me through how Microsoft is looking at this area of generative AI. What is it meant for the organization, and how do you see it evolving for the ecosystem?
That's a great question, Shireen. I think As you rightly said, this is a new paradigm in AI. And as Mahesh was saying, AI is not new. And even generative AI technology has been developing. What we've seen more recently is this explosion of interest in the space. But if you kind of look back a little bit, the work in this space has been going on since 2017. It's a type of technology that is able to generate new content, like you mentioned, such as text, images, music, speech, code. What that means is that you are now not limited by the existing data or human input in that kind of output that is created, kind of content that is created. Now, two of my favorite applications of generative AI, one that Mahesh talked about is the GitHub Copilot, which is really an AI pair programmer that helps you write code faster with lesser work, offers you inline suggestions as you code based on context of your comments, and it's powered internally by the OpenAI Codex foundational model. The second really interesting one is how generative AI can be a huge productivity booster across functions of sales, service, marketing, commerce. For example, you can create now personalized emails for customers based on their preferences and behavior, or it can create insights and recommendations for sales opportunities. If I step back, I think the type of opportunities we are seeing is number one, AI is going to become more and more mainstream. While it has been on a journey, but I think now it is becoming accessible and as a platform, as models, as these foundational models are being consumed. So I think that is number one. Number two, I think it will really have every organization consider AI as part of their overall digital transformation toolkit. And it will require all of us to think about our work in a way that is as a co-pilot. Every single function will have what Satya calls a co-pilot that is an augmentation of what human can do in every single function.
Well, yes, and I think that, that's another interesting question and another interesting debate to look at, whether this is going to augment and create more jobs, or is it going to displace people, because that is a fear at this point in time as well. But Mohit and Milind, coming to you with the point that Rohini made, that this is now going to have to be an integral part of every company, every enterprise's digital transformation strategy, digital transformation plan. Mohit, let me start by asking you, how are you incorporating this into workflow? We've heard both from Mahesh as well as Rohini in terms of efficiency, in terms of the turnaround times, and all of that, of course, will also mean an improvement in terms of return on capital. So how are you incorporating this into the enterprise at this point?
Thanks, Shireen. So Mahesh is right. For the Mahindra Group, this decade is the decade of artificial intelligence, whether it's to use predictive AI on making our vehicles more secure, safer, range extension of electric vehicles, driving financial inclusion, making housing more green and sustainable, or making agriculture more digital. So that's kind of the roadmap which is already on. Of course, there is exciting generative AI which has got added on now. We are looking at four types of use cases already in play. The large language model, the one we hear about, the ChatGPT equivalent, on how to make sales, servicing more productive and more personalized for the customer. So that's one, the large language model. Second is the developer efficiency and productivity, whether the GitHub Copilot or the OpenAI. Third is around voice to text, text to voice, which is around call center, again, making customer servicing more effective, and looking at languages, vernacular, into rural. We have a large Bharat play because of being a tractor manufacturer and a finance company in rural. So very, very big promise in the vernacular side as well. That's the third level of experimentation and road mapping. And last would be on creativity, whether it's image generation or video generation. So if you want to put a red in your creative and you want to show it on the beach, show it in the mountain, show it in the forest, you can quickly, in 5 minutes, generate 3 creatives and then go after the one which appeals the best, some bit of that. Now, of course, this is still at the startup phase. I see the challenge in the overall architecture, which is what we are currently working with closely with Microsoft and OpenAI, on how can customer data, company data, and public data still remain containerized and safe, but the neural logic of generative AI be applied to it, so that when the customer is trying to figure out where is my vehicle, he gets the answer. Or when the company is trying to figure out when do I get these spare parts to make the vehicle, I get the answer. Or you want to say how far can my vehicle go, or where can I eat on way? That's public
Right.
data. It'll show you all the restaurants on way, your trip itinerary. So you should be able to get all three of them without compromising data. I think that part
Right.
is yet. And the other thing, last the comment would be around the biases which may creep in, etc., which is a standard AI thing to cater to. So we're working on all these lines, but
Yeah.
very exciting, very promising equally.
Well, exciting and promising, but would it be fair to say that on each of these pillars that you just spoke to us about, you're still in experimentation or pilot mode at this point in time for each of them?
Yes, I would say pilot to adoption on the creative side, but on the large language model, we're training the bots, and the other two we haven't, and GitHub also we use. So I would say some are in the startup phase and some are in low-level adoption, but nothing at scale. It's just very new. It's just a couple of months old.
Milind, let me understand from you, what is happening as far as Kotak Mahindra Bank is concerned. And for the banking and financial services sector, tech adoption has, of course, been a work in progress over the last several years now. But specifically on the issue of generative AI, how are you using it? Are you also in the startup phase on some aspects and in the execution phase in many others?
So at Kotak Mahindra Bank, we are a deeply technology-focused company. Therefore, we are also deeply focused on software engineering. This technology is a very exciting technology. It's, I would say, definitely in the field of efficiency innovation. And it's giving us efficiency in three areas. Firstly, in the area of software engineering and software development, generative AI, as we heard, generates content, but software code is also a type of content. So by having generative AI generate code, it can make our developers more efficient. And we also always have principal engineers on our side perform code reviews before any code or software reaches in the hands of our customers. So that human intervention is always going to be there. However, the efficiency of our software development is going to increase. So as a software-focused company, we are very excited about this. The second area would be around customer service. And customer service, as you know, is, especially on the digital channels, is about meaningful and contextually appropriate answers that are helpful to our customers on the channel when they need it, where they need it. Therefore, by training some of these models with our own knowledge base and our own data and helping resolve customer problems with personalized solutions, that's the second area of customer experience, which today customer experience is equal to technology experience, because our product is software and technology is our channel to deliver the software. So that would be second area we are excited about. And the third is about fraud analytics. So fraud analytics, as you know, is about anomaly detection in the transaction patterns. So till now, banking and financial services companies have been using analytical AI for anomaly detection and fraud detection. But if we can combine generative AI along with analytical AI, I think the results are going to be more efficient. So I would put this particular innovation around generative AI overall in the realm of efficiency innovation, giving us efficiency in a number of areas. And especially for a company like us that is very deep into software and technology, we are very excited about starting to experiment with it.
Well, yes, you're experimenting, as is Mohit at this point in time at the Mahindra Group. And, I think the efficiency argument is being made by each one of you on this panel. But Mahesh, let me come back to you now. And I think that was the point that Rohini made, that, is this a tool that will be used to create jobs that will be used to assist people who are already in existing jobs at this point in time? Is it an augmentation tool, or will it in fact end up displacing people? And I think that is one of the big fears and concerns that people have as well. How are you looking at it at this point in time, Mahesh, in terms of what the impact and the implications will be from a workforce point of view?
Yeah. So as is always the case with new technology, Shireen, there are apprehensions in terms of what happens to jobs. But if you take a step back and look at the trajectory of how tech moves, essentially whole industries innovate and then the work changes, right? The work becomes such that you are much more productive. These technologies become a tool to help you do your work better and increase productivity in the long term, right? So the way we see it really is that the nature of work will change. I fully buy what Rohini is saying. So you can think of in almost every industry, almost all knowledge industries for sure, you will find that there's going to be these kind of assistants. So the human will still be in the loop, but then you will have an AI. Could be generative AI, could be just a regular deep learning kind of a module, which is going to help make that person perform their job better, right? In some cases, the work will get automated away, and that's a good thing, right? There's a lot of repetitive work we do. You can talk to Milind. He gets millions and millions of customer service emails, like he's saying, every day. Most of those are pretty routine, simple, straightforward responses, which can be easily automated away by a bot, which is almost happening. Today, you go and use any food delivery app, they have a fantastic bot which can, help you forgot an item. They can ask you to return it. That work is gone, and that's okay, right? But whole new industries will also get created. I think this releases so much productivity. For example, you've got to think about this as a new platform on which a whole new set of applications will start to get, created. We're already seeing that. There's been $10 billion of funding over the last, 2 months, which has gone into the startup ecosystem. So data will change. You will have a huge new world of data labelers, prompt engineers. There will be a discipline around AI itself in terms of ethics and risk, which will start to, be embedded into each profession. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for new kinds of work as well.
Right. Rohini, let's just take that point forward in terms of what kind of opportunities this is likely to throw up. And more importantly, how prepared we are in terms of the available workforce with the skills that are required to operate in this new AI or generative AI world.
Sure. I think just building on what Mahesh was saying, let me give a couple of examples of the shift in the and even the frontier of problems we think can be solved, right? Imagine a farmer who's able to now literally talk to, let's say the government's, PM Kisan Yojana or any other health-related corpus, and be able to ask questions about, let's say, eligibility. That is, you could not imagine until you have something that is able to ingest that and create answers for you as if you're conversing. Take another example. The amount of literature that is getting created in the medical world, it is impossible for a doctor, particularly, let's say, a cardiologist or a specialist, a pediatrics person, to really keep up with what is happening. Now, imagine that person being able to converse with a co-pilot and understand whatever latest is happening in that field that one would not have, one would take years and years to keep up with, and the rate at which it's opening is exponential. So I'm just giving a couple of examples where it changes the frontier of the kind of problems and the kind of jobs and the kind of opportunities that can be out there. But now coming to your point, I think in some ways, the need for AI skilling we've talked about for many years, and many people in the ecosystem, NASSCOM, many organizations have been working on in this space. In a way, this new paradigm increases both the spread of people who will work technically on AI, but also people who will be able to leverage AI as co-pilots, as augmenters with least friction. It will become more accessible, more inclusive.
Right. Okay, more accessible and more inclusive. Mahesh, let me come back to you for wrap-up comments, because you said that in many ways this is still startup and experimentation as far as the Mahindra Group is concerned. So what is the roadmap? Distance covered to where you wish to be. What is the roadmap now that you're going to be working on?
Mohit, I think that's for you.
Yeah. So, Shireen,
Sorry, Mohit, yes, for
good
you.
question, I think. Yes. I think the roadmap is to decide on where not to use it. Because you can get frothing in the mouth and really get excited about trying to implement it all over. So I think we are trying to focus on servicing creatives as the main areas to start with, and vernacular and large language models to expand our reach in the rural markets, and lead generation and personalization, sticking to that game plan and then trying it out and making it at scale, and the architecture, which I spoke about already. An example comes from mind on, if somebody were to ask a symptom of a heart pain, you say, hey, I think I'm having a heart pain or pain in my chest. You don't want to have a long conversation on what could it be. You immediately want to stop and say, please go see the doctor.
Yeah.
Similarly, we need to see where to apply it, where not to apply it. That's how we're going ahead, actually, looking at the risk model.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, looking at the risks, where not to apply it is what you're focused on. Milind, what about you? What are the focus areas? What are the imperatives at this point in time as you roll it out?
The three imperatives are the triple H problem, which the AI researchers are also trying to solve to make this technology more mature. And the three H's are that the answers provided should be honest, helpful, and harmless. So in terms of honest, that means that the responses provided must be factually 100% accurate at all times, which I think AI is well suited to, as well as generative AI, assuming that the model training and the input data sets are correct, which we can ensure. The second part is being helpful. And this is in technical jargon, this is the alignment problem that generative AI models have today, which is how do we ensure that the responses provided are contextually most appropriate and relevant to that particular situation and context and the question being asked? And the third edge is around harmless. So it's important that this technology is monitored and controlled in a way that the responses and augmentation that happens is free of biases, is harmless to society, and therefore even researchers who are trying to improve the generative AI models are looking forward to solve the 3H problems, which I think encapsulates the risks scenario very correctly for this technology and the risks that need to be mitigated. And therefore, right now, what we as enterprise users should do is make sure there is human intervention whenever we are using this technology right now. But we are excited about the innovation part of this.
Well, I think that there is absolute consensus on, that people are excited about what this technology could potentially mean. But I think as far as this program is concerned, I think it's totally delivered, Milind, on the 3 H's. It's been honest. So thank you, each one of you, Rohini and gentlemen, for being honest about your experiments with AI. I think you've certainly been helpful to understand how companies are going about dealing with this change and what this change could potentially mean as far as your own individual enterprises are concerned. And I can guarantee you this program was harmless. So I hope people will take away some interesting insights and nuggets from this conversation. And we look forward to having each one of you back again as we hear more from you on how you're building out this roadmap in an AI world. Mahesh, Rohini, Milind and Mohit, always a pleasure. Thanks very much for joining us here on this edition of Eye on India. We wish each one of you the very best of luck. We are going to take a break here, but there's a lot more coming up on CNBC TV 18. Don't go anywhere. We're back in a moment.